What did the ancient texts and the sacred traditions of thousands of years ago say about the importance of emotion and specifically compassion in creating your own reality? We're going to talk about that this morning. This is Tom Kieran with the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Guys, welcome back. Good morning, creators. I want to talk about compassion. In his book, Gregg Braden, The Divine Matrix, which was a New York Times bestseller, Gregg Braden is a spiritual teacher that's been around a while and really an expert on the ancient teachings, the ancient writings, and how those relate, how those bridge with quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and science, spirituality and science together on how we create our own reality. So I want to talk about compassion. Something really hit me when he was talking about this. He says, living life awake and conscious and present in our hearts. This is how he defines, or how the ancients defined, compassion. So it's not just feeling for somebody in their situation and so forth. It's more than that. It's a heart-based emotion, feeling that comes up that is necessary for creation. It's the oneness. Compassion, as the ancients describe it, is that feeling that we're all connected, and that it's impossible not to feel compassion when you're all connected. So living life awake and conscious of being present in our hearts. Why? Because you hear sometimes that they do this mass consciousness prayer, and that crime goes down and things get better when there's a large massive group of people praying. But as soon as they stop praying, the situation or the reality goes back to where it was. Why does that happen? Well, it's because we're not carrying it in our hearts. We're not living the feeling. And so he calls it really living the prayer. Feeling the feelings of oneness in our heart. That prayer is not something that we do, but something that we become. Not something that we do, but something that we become. This is the real difference on why, another reason why our prayers don't work, right? By praying, and even when you're using the law, I'll say that lightly, where the law of attraction is always working, but the idea of cause and effect. What's happening here is that you feel that it's something you do. It's really something that you become. It's something that you are. Life becomes the prayer, leading from the heart. And when anything comes up, not to judge it and not to have an attachment to the outcome. There's no ego involved, right? You don't place importance on it. That you know that this is a natural part of who you are. It's about acceptance, right? And then whatever the situation is, you choose a new possibility. This is pretty powerful stuff. You invite a new quantum blueprint, essentially. So he talks about a healing, a really miraculous healing that was done when he was doing his travels throughout the East, and that they actually got it on a picture of a tumor shrinking in real time, as a group of highly elevated spiritual people were praying for this person who had the tumor. And his point was that when they didn't look at they looked at the tumor and they accepted it as a quantum possibility, but then they chose again a new quantum possibility without the tumor, a healed body. And here's the idea: you invite a new quantum blueprint, but the key to that is that when you choose it, you've got to imbue it with the feelings, that feeling of compassion. That powerful feeling. He asked some ancients while he was there, some spiritual leaders, what is the key that holds the universe together? And they said compassion. He goes, well, wait a minute. Compassion, I thought, was more of an emotion, more of something that we conjure in our lives. And they said both. So compassion's important from the standpoint. It's more than just feeling sorry for somebody, so to speak. It's really that power from our heart. When thought plus emotion join, they create feelings. So he defined feelings really as the creation of thought plus emotion. And he describes it as only really two emotions, love or fear. So whatever we're feeling, and so the thought comes from that image, that quantum possibility. We've got to be very clear on what image we want. So you do have to set, as we talked about in the past, you set your intention. What do you want? And you're specific about it. You come up with the quantum possibility. So thought's important. But thought alone won't do it. That's why affirmations cannot work sometimes if you're not feeling it. Then you got to imbue that thought with emotion. Thoughts come, he talks about the 7 energy centers and the chakras, right? And that the top 3 energy centers, the top 3 chakras relate to the thought part of this, right? So you're drawing energy there. And then the bottom 3 chakras or energy centers relate to the emotion. Are you imbuing that thought or that image with love or fear? He gets it down to really 2 emotions. It's brilliant because really you don't have to mess with, if we overanalyze things and keep looking for reasons, and it's either thought, you're either imbuing a thought with love or you're imbuing it with fear. So there's all sorts of forms of love and there's all sorts of forms, but really there's not, right? There's either love or the absence of love. So either you're imbuing that thought with love or the absence of love. And so we can say compassion, love, all of that. And then once you imbue that image with that love, right? Then you create feelings, happiness, joy, ecstasy, all of that. Or you imbue those with fear. And then you get sadness and guilt and all those negative feelings. So this is the idea that the thought plus the emotion, these 2 energy centers lead to the middle energy center or your heart center. And there's cohesion. Once you have the thought join the emotion, there's cohesion and creates a cohesive feeling. And that's how you create, staying in that feeling. And so this is really, guys, this is really cool because it gives you the basis to create, and it can happen, and as we know, he talks about quantum physics, it can happen immediately, right? Immediately, everything that ever existed is right now. So if you can get into that feeling place by joining your image of what you want with the emotion out of love, and it meets in the heart center, which is that 7th chakra, that chakra right in the middle, that's your heart. Then you're creating your own reality, and it can happen immediately. It depends on where you're, but you've got to live it. It's not like a prayer. This is it. If we just put off prayers and spiritual practices of something that we do on a Saturday or before we go to bed or when we get up in the morning, then we're not living the actual compassion. We're not living the feeling. And so our creations don't stick or they don't manifest because we're not with it long enough, right? But imagine living from that heart place, imbuing all of your images that you want out of life with that compassion, with that love. Wow, how powerful is that, right? And he talks about negative emotion when negative emotion comes up, and he says the ancients don't ever say to repress it. They say to look at it, recognize it, and then accept it and bless it. And it doesn't mean you want it. It means because if you ignore it, it remains and it gets more suppressed and more suppressed. We've talked about repressed and suppressed emotions. Let it come up and then choose again. Now, when you make a choice of a new possibility, it's not a choice just with the thought, it's a choice with the emotion. And then that creates the feeling. So it's the thought plus feeling. That's how you pick a new quantum possibility. That was the missing piece, right? The ancients knew it for thousands of years, right? They knew that this idea of compassion, this idea of feeling your way, and we'll talk more about this, but in the last text, there was a biblical edit of the 4th century. They lost a lot of the original text. Those teachings, though, still existed in other cultures, like the Indian culture, the Veda, the Sanskrit revealed it. And in this was the Gnostic teachings, the lost Gospel of Thomas, which are teachings by Jesus. And these are very powerful because it talks about when these 3 experiences become one, then they're joined, and that's how you create your reality. Those 3 experiences are thoughts, feelings, and emotions that they were referring to. So Jesus talks about this in a more direct way. Why? In the Bible it talks about it, but it talks about it as words. right? If you ask, you receive. And so we don't really get, even though we know that it should be feeling, we don't get there because we think it's just words. We think we just ask. But it's not asking with words, it's asking with feeling. And this is what this Gnostic text, the lost teachings of Thomas, tell us. And I'll talk more about this. But this is very powerful, guys. The ancients knew it. It is feeling and emotion. It's not just words, right? Ask and you shall receive means really think, feel the emotion, feel, imbue it with love, and then you shall receive. Very powerful stuff. We'll talk more about this. This is Tom Caron with the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button so you never miss a video, comment and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. This is Tom. Until next time, see you soon.